KGW News at 11.
Developing tonight at 11, a man is dead after he was shot at a grocery store in Woodburn. The suspected shooter is now in police custody. It all happened around 4 this afternoon at the Mega Foods on Mount Hood Avenue. Right now, there are few details from police other than no one else was hurt and they believe no other suspects are involved. There's no ongoing threat to the public. Police aren't releasing the victim's name until their family is notified. Well, this latest shooting death comes as a trial begins this week to determine if Measure 114 is constitutional. That's the ballot measure passed by voters in November that would tighten gun laws. But it's been on pause after a state judge put a temporary restraining order on it. Let's bring in Thomas Schultz. And Thomas, you've heard from people on both sides of this issue.
Yeah, Blair, Measure 114 would require a permit by police, photo ID, fingerprints, firearms training, a background check, and a fee to buy a gun. It would also ban magazines that hold more than 10 rounds of ammunition. On Monday, a week-long trial begins in Portland on Measure 114 to determine if a voter-passed measure restricting gun ownership is constitutional.
The crux of our defense for large capacity magazines are that they're not arms at all, protected by the Second Amendment because they're accessories.
Zach Bakalis, a partner at Pacifica Law Group, argues Measure 114 is constitutional because the United States has a long tradition of restricting dangerous weapons and accessories. Proponents of Measure 114 say the Second Amendment gives law-abiding citizens the right to use commonly used firearms for self-defense. But they say 99% of lawful self-defense cases involve 3 gunshots or less, much less than Measure 114's ban on magazines that hold 10 rounds of ammunition or more.
We're extremely confident that after a 5-day trial, we're going to prevail and Measure 114 will be able to move forward and be implemented.
Bend City Council member Anthony Broadman, a fellow proponent of Measure 114, says Bend is still grieving from an August shooting at a Safeway where 2 people were killed by a 20-year-old gunman. He says the shooter used an AR-style firearm with a high-capacity magazine. Broadman believes this policy could change future outcomes.
It is a set of common-sense gun safety policies that will reduce violence, will save lives by keeping guns out of hands that shouldn't have them.
In the federal lawsuit against Measure 114, opponents say the potential policy violates Second Amendment rights. Lawyers representing the Oregon Firearms Federation say millions of law-abiding Americans own firearms with more than 10 rounds. They say there is nothing novel or unusual about the technology. The Oregon Association of Sheriffs agrees.
We recognize that we must address firearm violence, but Measure 114 is just not the answer.
Lawyers expect the trial to last until Friday, but think it may be weeks or even months until a ruling is issued. Meanwhile, a temporary restraining order issued against Measure 114 by a Harney County Circuit judge is expected to stay in place until September. Blair?
All right, Thomas, thank you. Well, now to an update on the 6 women who vanished and were found dead around Portland in the past 6 months. Today, Portland police are saying they have no reason to believe that the deaths are connected. This comes after the remains of 22-year-old Ashley Rial were found in rural Clackamas County last month. She was last seen in Portland. This marked the 6th such death within a 100-mile radius of Portland. Portland police say detectives are working with Clackamas County officials on that case. They're also investigating the death of Kristen Smith of Gresham, whose remains were found in February in the Pleasant Valley neighborhood. As for the 4 other cases, Portland police have talked with the agencies investigating them, but are not currently involved. Well, a woman who was serving a life sentence for throwing her children off the Selwood Bridge more than a decade ago has died in prison. 45-year-old Amanda Stott-Smith died at the Coffee Creek Correctional Facility in Wilsonville this morning. That's according to officials there. She began serving her life sentence in 2010 for killing her 4-year-old son and trying to kill her 7-year-old daughter. Her sentence included the possibility of parole after 35 years, meaning she could have been released at age 67. The medical examiner will now determine how she died. Well, an update now on a mom and two children from Vancouver who were reported missing earlier today. Now, just in the last hour, Vancouver police confirmed that 35-year-old Bethany Schaefer and her 10-year-old son and 7-year-old daughter have been found. Police said they had been checked on, but there's no word yet on how they're doing. Well, let's turn now to the weather, and it was another warm and sunny day out there, and it looks like there's some heat on the way. Daisy Caballero has a look at your forecast. Daisy.
Thanks so much, Blair. And yes, you are totally right. The warm conditions, the sunny weather is actually here to stay for at least the next 7 days or so. Checking out our current conditions right now, 64 degrees, winds coming out from the northwest at right around 9 miles an hour. Those winds have calmed down from what we were experiencing a little bit earlier today, and will continue actually tomorrow. We'll talk more about that in my full forecast. But looking at the rest of our current temperatures, a good mixture of those 50s and 60s, 62 Forest Grove, 58 for Hillsborough. But hey, we're still holding on to 70 degrees as we're looking at the Dalles, and as always, a little bit cooler along the coastline. So what else is in store for us? Well, like I just said, more sunshine and dry all this entire week. We start the work week with 80s in the forecast, potentially seeing some 90s. We'll talk more about that coming up, Blair.
All right, Daisy, thanks so much. Well, one of Oregon's most influential tribal leaders was remembered today at the Spirit Mountain Casino. Catherine Harrison had a difficult early life. At 10 years old, she became an orphan, and she was then sent to an abusive foster home. As an adult, she raised 10 children of her own. It was later on in life, though, that she fought for the rights and restoration of 2 Oregon tribes. Devin Haskins has her story and the legacy she leaves behind.
The sounds of drums and song fill the room at the Spirit Mountain Casino. Voices carry the tune of Catherine Harrison's life. From family members,
we have great memories, and we just need to keep telling them.
To tribal leaders,
when we look at where the tribe was and where we are today, we do owe a great debt of gratitude.
And politicians.
Catherine Harrison was a woman known and respected statewide in Oregon.
Almost everyone here was in some way touched by her life.
That's the way she always was, is she cared more about people than herself.
In the 1970s, 20 years after 61 tribes in Oregon lost federal recognition, Catherine Harrison made restoration for them her mission.
And if it weren't for her, we Silettes had a difficult time being restored. But restoring the Grand Round tribe was a great feat, and we owe her family for lending us Catherine for all these years.
She testified in front of Congress and helped not only the Silettes tribe, but also got federal recognition back for her own.
Restoration was really a vision of the heart. I believe sent by our Creator to help our people come into what He planned for us. And she was one of those leaders.
More than a leader, but a visionary. In 1995, she helped establish a gaming contract for the Spirit Mountain Casino.
That contract set up the most successful tribal casino in the Northwest.
Carrie Timchuk, executive director of the Oregon Historical Society, says Harrison was a friend of his for more than 2 decades. Someone he says didn't let her short height ever get in the way of what she wanted.
Persistence. She just didn't give up. I mean, there were many times, many opportunities where she could have given up, where there was too many hurdles in the road.
Catherine Harrison was 99 years old. I'm Devin Haskins, KGW News.
Well, there's never a good time for your pet to have a medical emergency, especially late at night. But here's some good news. Dove Lewis Emergency and Specialty Animal Care in Northwest Portland is now back open 24/7 for walk-in appointments. The clinic's around-the-clock service was suspended back in October for the first time in 30 years. They're now restaffed and ready to help.
When you're worried, we're ready and we're here. So call us because we're here 24/7. We're going to answer the phone. So if you're not sure whether your pet needs help, just pick up the phone and give us a call. We have team members here, we have technicians, we have veterinarians. We can answer your questions and we can help you make the decision.
They also partner with Audubon Portland to handle any wild animal injuries that you may encounter after hours. Well, today at Oaks Park, people walked to raise awareness and money for infant and maternal health. OHSU providers, patients, and their families teamed with the March of Dimes for the March for Babies. The money raised goes towards research and programs to end maternal and infant deaths.
One of the things we are proud of is that we can take care of babies born at a very young age, preterm. Mother's mortality is also still an incredible issue, especially it's rising everywhere, even in the United States.
Now the money will also go toward providing free intensive care support for newborns. Well, also today at that park, the Oaks Amusement Park held a celebration for its 118th birthday. It's one of the oldest operating amusement parks in the country. Families were there today enjoying the weather and all the attractions.
My kids love the roller coasters, are that. Plus, we come out here for the food. The food, the barbecue, we know how to cook, and then the kids have a good time. Go home tired, go to sleep, and go to school tomorrow.
Well, park goers were treated to 20% off ride bracelets, free cake and balloons, and a performance by the Navy Band Northwest. Well, it was a celebration of Latino culture today at Ron Tonkin Field in Hillsborough. The Hillsborough Hops teamed up with the county's Chamber of Commerce and Unite Us Community Credit Union to put on the festival, showcasing Latino music, dance, art, and of course, food.
We have over 20% of Latino population or Spanish-speaking population, and they are a force for the economy. So here, everyone is, of course, spending their money, helping those small business owners to grow their business.
And this was the 18th year for that festival. So cool.